Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Gentleman of Boxing. I'm your host Max, and today we'll be discussing the up and coming fight between Devin Haney versus Brian Norman Jr. So supposedly this fight is slotted to take place in November. It could potentially be the main event on the David Benavidez versus Anthony Yarde fight card. That's what's been said. So supposedly everything's signed. It will be for the welterweight championship that Brian Norman has right now. So Devin Haney would be moving up because the last fight that he had against what was this gentleman's name? Ramirez, I believe it was his name. Jorge Ramirez. Yeah, I think it was Jorge Ramirez or Jose Ramirez. The lackluster performance he had in New York on the card of Teofimo Lopez versus what's this other gentleman's name? Arnold Barboza Jr. And then Ryan Garcia that had the lackluster performance versus Rolly. And so Devin Haney versus Brian Norman Jr. Brian Norman Jr. has been making a lot of headlines. I want to say last year and this year mainly. I really hadn't heard about him before that. I know that he knocked out one of the boxers that I used to follow that is trained by Robert Garcia, which is Giovanni Santillan. Giovanni had been looking really good, and he ran into Brian Norman, and he actually got outgunned and KO'd. After that, I believe he fought a Japanese fighter with one loss only, and he knocked him out too. And now he's signed to fight Devin Haney, Devin Haney is going to be making his welterweight debut. I don't think he's ever fought at welterweight. Most of Devin Haney's career was at lightweight, and then I think he only had maybe one fight against Ryan Garcia at 140 or maybe it was at 135, and then the one at 140 versus Jose Ramirez, and now he's jumping to welterweight to challenge for the title. Now, Devin Haney, we know he has a record of 32 wins and 0 losses, 15 knockouts. And Brian Norman Jr. has a record of 28 wins, 0 losses, and 22 knockouts with 2 no contests. We really haven't seen Brian Norman challenge against any slick boxers that I can find footage on. So this will be his first challenge, actually, fighting a guy, with like a Mayweather-esque type of style that is very slick. We know everybody that saw that fight against Ramirez last time. We know how he can be a mover, Devin Haney. Not like before. Before he was a little bit, he would box in the inside a little bit and get out. But last fight, I guess it was because it was his first fight coming back from the Ryan Garcia fight. But it was kind of a lackluster performance. I was actually pretty taken back. I've been following Devin Haney for a while, and I really hadn't seen him fight like that before. Yes, he moves a lot, but not that much. And Brian Norman, we really haven't seen him tested. Giovanni Santillan is a pressure fighter, so he's in front of your face all the time. So it's not like he had to go look for him. So it's kind of it played to his game. He showed a lot of good skills, Brian Norman Jr. He's very young. I think he's 24 years old. Devin Haney's 26. So it'll be a test for both of them, I think, because of the fact that Brian has never fought somebody as slick as Haney, and Haney has never really fought anybody at welterweight. And being that Brian Norman Jr. has good boxing and has power, that could be a big test, for, Devin Haney. Also, of course, we also have to take into consideration how big is going to be the ring, right? Because the bigger the ring, the more space that Devin Haney will have to move around. So it is a very interesting fight, intriguing fight. Supposedly, again, like I said, it's signed, but we still, can't confirm a date. As far as I know, I only heard that it was going to be in November, and potentially on it would be the main event on the Benavidez fight in November. So it's a fight that I'm looking forward to. A challenge for both of them, actually. Moving on to some news. There was some verbal jabs between newly crowned Xander Zayas, junior middleweight, 22-year-old, youngest champion right now in the roster of any weight division. There was verbal jabs between him and Virgil Ortiz. So that would be an interesting fight. I mean, Virgil Ortiz has a lot of power, and Xander is a pretty big junior middleweight, so that would be potentially a good matchup. I mean, we'll see what materializes, but I mean, I wouldn't mind watching that fight. Another fight that's been talked about a lot, also, with Virgil Ortiz, it would be Virgil Ortiz versus Errol Spence Jr. So supposedly Errol Spence Jr. wants to fight Virgil Ortiz in his comeback fight after losing to Terrence Crawford. He hasn't fought since then, so he wants to make his first comeback fight at 154 against Virgil Ortiz. So I think it's a dangerous fight for Errol Spence, especially coming off a knockout loss to Terrence Crawford. I mean, I think Virgil Ortiz is a more brutal puncher than Terrence Crawford, and he's a bigger guy. So, I mean, that would be very interesting. I don't know if it's a good fight for Errol Spence, but supposedly it would be a shootout. Both are, fighters from Texas. So, I mean, if they make it in the Cowboy Stadium in the AT&T Center, I mean, that would be a pretty, massive fight. I think it would, sell like pancakes, you know what I mean? It wouldn't be too hard to sell that fight. I mean, both fighters have really crowd-pleasing styles. So that could potentially be a really good matchup if it happens. I don't know how long it would last, but it would be good until it lasts. But I would prefer to see Sandra Sayas against Virgil Ortiz instead of Errol Spence, if I'm being honest. I think it's a better matchup because both are, in their prime. They haven't been, hurt that much in their fights as much as Errol Spence, the way he looked against Terrence Crawford. To me, I honestly thought that he looked concussed going into the fight because we all know that he had not one, but I think two car accidents that were pretty brutal. So who knows, in what state of mind, he was going into that fight. Not making any excuses for him, but it just, it looked like any shot that Crawford would land would hurt him. It was devastating. And I've really never seen Crawford, hurt people that fast, that early in a fight, especially fighting a bigger guy. So, I mean, who knows, right? Who knows? It's just speculation. But, I mean, those are the fights that kind of have been semi-announced. The Haney one is, I think, already signed. But the other ones with Virgil Ortiz, those ones are just kind of like speculations that they've been putting out there. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what materializes. I'll be back again next week with another episode of The Gentleman of Boxing. Please hit the like and subscribe button. It goes a long way, helps the channel grow. And thank you so much for joining me today on The Gentleman of Boxing, everyone. Stay safe and have a good rest of your day.